1, 2, See, I took all the bass out.
Yeah.
Now I sound super nasally and nerdy. One,
How
two,
do I
three, four,
sound?
five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10.
I sound like a bit of a nerd, but that's okay. I think this is good. Right here. Right? Did you move anything?
I
One.
didn't. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Team Morale Podcast. We do our three favorite things: talk a little bit of booze, a little bit of beer, and a whole lot of basketball. Ian the Tall Guy back with you again for yet another episode. And if you're watching us on YouTube, things are a little bit different.
Oh, yeah. We are growing up here at the Team Morale Podcast. We have moved on from our beginner podcast setup that we originally bought pretty close to a year ago.
Yeah.
And we are upgrading to the full-on big-ass extendo arm mic stands now.
Yeah, we recently got a upgraded mic kit, and it involved us having the fancy, radio podcast arm. So we are growing over here at Team Morale. So that being said, we are still working through some kinks with our new equipment. So we do apologize if we sound a little bit different. We're working through that, but it's a fun time for the Team Morale podcast. It's growing, we're expanding, we are putting time and effort into this, and it's fun to see it pay off.
It is. It's very fun to see it pay off, and we don't get to spend a whole lot of episodes here inside of this room anymore, which has been our podcast room, because Ethan has gotten a new puppy, and I know how many of our listeners are here for the puppy content, so we gotta talk about Marlon a little bit.
Yes, Marlon the dog, taking one for the team, staying up way past his bedtime so that we can steal his podcast room, so that we can record tonight. The podcast room is currently now the puppy room, so we are putting the podcast, soundproofing all that on hold while we have the doggo, figuring him out. So we are, again, apologies if we sound a little bit different, but we've got a lot to talk about on today's podcast.
We do have a lot to talk about, and it's all about the week that it is, the season that we are in, and that is Halloween. It is spooky season right now, Ethan.
Yeah, absolutely. So Halloween is on Sunday. You guys will be hearing this on Wednesday, and we are recording this on Tuesday. Just a little timeline for you guys. So this is the last time you'll hear from us before Halloween. So we thought that we would do our Halloween themed episode for you guys today.
Yes, and so we have decided that we're going to talk about the scariest dudes that have ever graced the association. We're going to talk about the guys that strike fear into your hearts more than anyone else.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a personalized podcast from each of us, because both Mitch and I decided to come up with the three guys in the history of the NBA that scared us the most, in terms of like when my Mavericks were playing or when Mitch's Blazers were playing. What were the guys that you just, game's on the line, the game's winding down, it's a close game, they get the ball in the hand, you're like, well, it's over. That's a bummer.
Yeah, before he even shoots it.
Yeah, you just know.
It's just going into the game, it's like, man, going up against this guy is always scary. But before we get into all of that, we are going to talk about our whiskey of the night. And our whiskey of the night is, I can say all of this is in Spanish, so I'm going to do my best here. Abasolo Ancestral Corn Mexican Whiskey from the producer distiller Distillería y Bodega Abasolo. I'm not butchering this at all so far. Doing great. It is a Mexican corn whiskey, and it comes out of Hilotepec, Mexico. And this is one of the fun ones that comes in Ethan's box.
Yeah, we might as well try to get a sponsorship from them.
We should.
every couple of weeks we have a new whiskey from this website. But yes, it's a very fun one. Our first Mexican whiskey on the podcast.
It is our first. I feel like it's very appropriate. I was in Mexico but like 2 weeks ago or whatever, and I had a lot of tequila there, but not as much Mexican whiskey. So the fact that we have that on the podcast is pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have a little bit of a backstory on them?
I do. This is my favorite part about your whiskey stuff, is I don't have to do any research. It all comes on the piece of paper here for us. So here's the story. From the birthplace of corn comes this one-of-a-kind whiskey distilled from a rare Mexican ancestral non-GMO white corn known as, oh dear, Cacahuazintele. a variety that has been cultivated in Mexico over 2 centuries. This particular variety grows at altitudes above 7,000 feet and is only found in certain regions of Mexico. Nixtamalization is a fundamental Mexican corn preparation technique dating back 4,000 years that has never before been used in the production of whiskey. This special native ingredient, combined with its unique cooking methods, result in a whiskey like none other. I feel like I was just like challenged on my reading abilities, and that I don't like it.
I was about to say I didn't think you knew how to speak Spanish, but maybe you do.
Now it's proven to everyone that I definitely don't know how to speak Spanish because I butchered a lot of those words. But I don't know if you could see on the podcast, we're about halfway through this bottle. I promise it wasn't all from tonight. We've been drinking this before because it's really freaking good.
Yeah, it is. It is very good. It is very tasty. We will talk through the taste of it a little bit later and give it our rankings as well as guess the flavoring of it. We'll do that about halfway through the podcast. But Mitch, why don't you start us off with someone that just you have that sparks the fear in you, that just strikes your heart in a spot that's like super scary.
All right, I'm gonna go with the man that has tormented me and my Trailblazers for the better part of the last decade, and that is one Steph Curry. If you know anything about Steph Curry and the Blazers, that Steph Curry just goes absolutely nuclear on us. I think he like averages 40 points a game or 45 a game or something stupid against us. His Warriors have knocked us out, I think 3 or 4 times in the last 10 playoffs. He ruins us. And there was even a series where he was out the entire time, and they were debating whether to bring him back or not. And they're like, okay, you know what? We're going to let Steph play, but only limited minutes. He only plays for like 10 minutes during the regular game. And then once overtime showed up, he played the entire time in overtime and scored like 15 points in overtime and just killed us. This is what Steph Curry does to us. And every time I see him on the court playing against my team, I just know he's going to do some crazy shit to make me feel bad.
Yeah, I mean, the guy is the greatest shooter in the history of the NBA for a reason, and he is just absolutely crazy. I mean, he does stuff with a basketball that no one can ever do. I pulled up his stats versus the Blazers in his career.
Why'd you do that?
In his career, they're not as bad as you think.
So I gotta say that there's probably several years of like pre-Steph being MVP Steph that probably helps us out.
Yeah, in his career versus the Blazers, he's averaged 28 points, 5.6 or 6.5 assists, and 4.5 rebounds in his 33 career games against the Blazers. He has shot
It's also not as bad as I
48% from the field, 45.5 from 3 on 9.5 attempts a game.
Oh,
yeah, he has scored a career 925 points against you guys.
I think that especially like in the last couple of years, Steph has like taken note that's like, okay, Dame is like the other version of me. It's like Dame is the other guy that shoots from deep. He's the other really good 3-point shooter. And so he's like, I'm going to like take it up a notch. Almost like you saw in The Last Dance where Michael Jordan's like, I was offended when people compared me to Clyde Drexler. So he just like went out and like ruined the Blazers whenever he played against them. I think Steph gets a little bit of that too.
Yeah. His plus minus, his career versus the Blazers, plus 203.
Oh, God.
203.
Dude, they've swept us so many times. Even,
wild.
And like even the Western Conference Finals, we were up by 10 or more in 3 of the 4 games in the fourth quarter, and we still got swept. He just like, he does ungodly things to us when he's playing against us. The worst part is he gives me hope. Like, he gives me a chance to win. He like makes me think that like there's like, oh right, we got this one, and then he like goes off and does like some stupid shit and like makes me sad again.
Yeah, the Warriors were the perfect example of it didn't matter what the score was. You could be up 20 or down 20. They're still going to go on the run. That's
exactly
kind of how it works.
The run is coming.
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of segues into my next guy.
All right, hit me.
Because he was also a member of the Warriors, and that is Kevin Durant.
He forgot he played for the Warriors.
Strikes so much fear into me because he's a 7-footer who moves like a guard. who shoots like the best shooting guards of all time, who blocks shots with the best of the centers, and can have like the passing and the just overall court awareness of a point guard.
He's the Slim Reaper.
He just ruins people.
He's the
And
Slim Reaper, man.
It's not so much even me as a Mavs fan. It's just me as like an NBA fan, where like he went to the Warriors, and then his team was just dicking on everyone. It didn't even matter who. And then he went to the Nets, and then they were the favorites. And if no one got hurt, they still would have probably waltzed away with the finals last year. And so and he tore his Achilles in an injury that generally takes people out of their like prime. Like even if you come back, you're no longer in your prime. And he came back and was still like the All-Star game captain.
Like arguably better.
Yeah.
Than when he went down.
The guy is unreal.
He really is.
As much as I hate him, he is unreal.
I think there's a lot of similar attributes for all the guys we're going to talk about. And a lot of it is like at least the last two guys we talked about, every single time Kevin Durant goes to shoot the basketball, you just assume the ball is going in. It doesn't matter what the form is like, how much he is being defended, if he's fading away, if it's from half court. It's one of those dudes where every time he rises up for a jump shot, you're just like, oh, well, that's going in.
Yeah, the way I put my list together, the way I picked my three guys, it was like, if they were shooting a game-winning shot, am I walking out of the room already, or am I not? And if Kevin Durant is playing the Mavericks and we are up 2 and he takes a 3-pointer as time expires, I'm like, crap.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
Like,
we're done.
We're
I'm going to
screwed.
walk out. All right, cool.
I had a little bit of a different category. Mine was more going into a game. Who am I like the most afraid of? Like, I know it comes down to that last second shot, so I like that criteria. But for me, it's like you go into a game, it's like, who is striking fear into you during that game?
Yeah, and Kevin Durant is the definition. You can't stop him. He is the most gifted scorer in the history of the NBA, and that is a hill I will die on.
I don't know if we're ever going to see another guy like Kevin Durant. He's a legitimate 7-footer, like a legit like 6'11", legit 7 feet tall guy.
He's one of the few guys in the NBA that instead of like saying he's taller than he is, they list him as shorter than he is.
Yeah, because everyone always like is like, oh well, I'm 6 foot, 6'2" with the shoes and 6'5" with the afro, so put me as 6'5".
Yeah,
and
Kevin Durant is truly a 7-footer that they list as 6'11".
Dude, he like was going as 6'9" for the longest time. He's like standing next to centers. He's like, you're not 6'9". You're not even close to 6'9". It's like, why are you lying to me? Durant is a really good pick. Durant is so scary, man. Every team he's been on, the fact that he could take the Thunder, that young Thunder team to a finals, the fact that he was a part of one of the greatest dynasties in the history of basketball, the fact that he could tear his Achilles and go to the Nets and still be producing at an MVP type level, the dude is straight up scary.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a straight up killer.
Yeah.
Who do you have as your next guy?
Okay, so I got 2 more guys.
You have 2 more.
I got 2 more guys, and I'm waffling which one I'm going to talk about right now. But I thought about a lot of different people. And there's so many guys in the history of basketball.
Oh, do you want to take a break and visit some of the guys that like you didn't?
Yeah,
pick?
I was going to kind of go over some of the thinking that I had going into this podcast, and I deliberated with some of my consiglieres. I've been watching a lot of mob movies lately. I just finished The Sopranos. But I've been talking to my consiglieres. You know who you are if you're listening to the podcast. And we went over some names like Shaquille O'Neal, like super dominant. How do you stop Shaquille O'Neal? Some old guys like Wilt is like, how did you ever stop Wilt? Or like Larry had a way of coming up and like winning a game at the end of the game, no matter what. But I decided to go with the category of who scares me the most right now in the NBA. Currently, if there was a game to happen, who scares me the absolute most? And I think there's only one answer to that, and it's Giannis.
Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting.
I see Giannis on the other side of the floor from me, and I'm already shitting my pants. He is a Greek god. Like, he is so much bigger, so much more athletic. He's got the DPOY. He's got the multiple MVPs. He's got the championship. He's got the Finals MVP. We might be watching the
and he's
career
not even 27 yet.
He's not even 27 years old. I'm pretty sure Michael Jordan was like 28 years old by the time he made it to his first finals. Giannis has done all this beforehand. We might be witnessing the career of one of the greatest players, if not maybe at the end of his career, if he continues to do this for a long time like LeBron, the greatest player to ever play.
Yeah, I mean, he is. I will not fault you there. The guy is talented. For me, he doesn't scare me as much as some other guys because he doesn't have that jumper yet. Now, what does scare me is he's only 26 years old, and in a couple years, maybe even, I mean, he's showing improving shooting form now. Like he could definitely, get that jumper.
He's still working on it.
And once he gets that jumper, and it's not an if, it's a win, then he becomes terrifying.
I mean, people forget that. One of the guys I also didn't talk about is like obviously LeBron. LeBron is one of the dudes that absolutely scares the shit out of you. But people forget he didn't have a jumper for the longest time. When he was playing with the Miami Heat, he did not shoot the three ball well at all. It was one of the biggest issues with his game. And now he's a terrific 3-point shooter, and he shoots from deep all the time. You never know what Giannis could turn into.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
So it's almost like currently right now, I think Giannis is the scariest guy to go up against, and I also think that he's probably the scariest guy to go up against for the future.
He has
of
the
NBA.
scariest ceiling.
Yeah,
that's for sure. His ceiling is absolutely terrifying. Yeah, Giannis is a great pick. He's unreal. LeBron, you mentioned him. He is terrifying. I mean, Giannis is the type of villain to where if you're in the paranormal, it's Halloween and there's a paranormal thing. He's like the bad guy who's not fully the bad guy yet.
Yes.
He's the middle boss that comes back and you face him later and he's even more scary.
Yes. It's like the Batman, the Dark Knight quote where it's like you either die the hero or you live long enough to become the villain, which LeBron has 100% lived that exact lifestyle back and forth with Cleveland.
He's been the hero and then the villain and then went back to being the hero and then went back to being the villain. And now he's just I don't know what I am anymore. Giannis has been the hero the whole time.
Yes.
But he
definitely
could turn. And just we brought this up, we were talking about Kevin Durant earlier. He was the hero, then he became the villain. Steph Curry was the hero, and then Kevin Durant joined the team and they became the favorites and they became a bit of the villain. But then he went back to being a hero this year. So they players waffle a lot. And I'm going to take this moment to, before we jump back into this whiskey,
okay,
I'm going to talk about a couple of guys that as a Mavs fan, we call them Mavs killers.
Oh, yeah.
And they're scary, but in a whole different way. The Mavs have this thing about them that they get roasted, not by the best player. They get roasted by some of the others. And there have been some crazy others out there that have done incredible things against the Mavericks. Number one, Ed Davis. You know who you are.
My Ed Davis. My Fizz Ed. I love me some Ed Davis, man.
Most casual NBA players have no idea who Ed Davis is. He is at best, a backup big man in the NBA during his prime. He was at best the backup big man. He may have started a couple years here and there, but this man dropped a 30-20 game on the Mavericks and just absolutely rose. I was at the game.
That was with the Blazers, right?
No, it was with the Jazz.
Oh,
he's a member of the Jazz.
Oh, that's after us.
Yeah, no, this is old Ed Davis.
Sure
this is old man Ed Davis.
I'm pretty sure he also had a 2015 game that I went to as with the Blazers against the Mavs.
Oh no, I'm just talking about his best game. He murdered us for years, and it was one of those things going in. It was like, all right, well, Ed Davis, he's on the end of the bench. If he gets in, we're screwed. Another prime example: DJ Augustine, the journeyman point guard, had multiple 20-point games against the Mavericks, and he had maybe 30 20-point games in his career, and he had 7 or 8 of them against the Mavericks.
That could be a coming home thing for him because he went to UT.
That's a good point.
He's a Texas guy, so maybe
it's
a coming home, and but I feel like every team kind of has that list, those random guys. I'm in my the first guy that pops in my head that you bring it up is Yogi Ferrell. Absolutely torches the Blazers. I don't even know if he's in the league anymore, but I hope he's not because he murders us every time he's given a chance to play against us.
Yogi Ferrell holds the record for the most three-pointers made by a guy not in the NBA. He was on a 10-day contract. And for those who don't know, those are, you sign a guy for literally 10 days and then you cut him again because like it's someone got hurt. They you need a guy to fill in. Well, the Mavericks signed Yogi Ferrell after our starting point guard at the time was Raymond Felton.
Boo!
Got hurt.
Audible boos from Portland are coming right now.
But Raymond Felton got hurt. We brought in Yogi Ferrell on a 10-day, and he got the start randomly and made like 10 threes. It was stupid.
Yogi Ferrell, man. Yogi Ferrell's he's had quite the career. Everything from Indiana to his NBA
Indiana
career.
to the Mavs, and now he's I think on the Kings. Another guy, OJ Mayo.
OJ
Mayo murdered
That's
the Mavs.
random.
He was a guy that was supposed to be good and then decided he had no knees anymore. But he was insane. I'm trying to think of anyone
I feel
else.
like for the Blazers, like there's like a generic the white shooters, like the JJ Redicks and Kyle Korvers and Joe Harrises of the world, absolutely kill us every time they come to Portland. That could be a general perimeter defense problem, but but those guys absolutely
you mean the guys
torch
who shoot
us.
threes well? I wonder what happens there.
I don't know why, but specifically those like not athletic like white dudes always have like a 30 burger against the Blazers.
If it looks like bad perimeter defense and it smells like bad perimeter defense,
It's probably the
tastes like bad perimeter defense.
It's probably the coach's fault. Let's fire him and make no other roster changes.
All right. We've had our fun so far. Let's take a break here. Let's jump back into this whiskey here. Let's talk taste for a minute. Do you want to guess the tasting notes on this one?
Yeah,
I've been guessing.
yeah.
I've been guessing the last couple.
Yeah.
So let me pull up our note. You haven't gotten to the tasting notes in here, have you?
No.
All right. Well, then what you got for me?
Okay. So I'm going to start off with the basic bitch comment, which is I get a lot of caramel. We always say this and stuff, but this one does. This whiskey specifically has a lot of sweetness to it, which I think is why we liked it right off the bat. When you drink it, it's really, really smooth. It's got a lot of sweetness to it. So I get a lot of caramel. I think it's got
funny. Caramel isn't hot on here.
Not on the list.
Not on the
list. Another. Well, I'm going to say it's got a little spice. I can't say exactly what the spice is, but there's just a hint of spice to let you know, yeah, you're drinking whiskey.
Subtle spice of pepper.
Hey.
So you're there.
All right. And then I'm going to say hold on. I'm going to have one more sip. Gargle. It was, I had like a hint of like another sweet kind of flavor, kind of like a brown sugar kind of flavor.
Brown sugar is something that's mentioned.
Bang. There we go. What other stuff is on here?
I am shocked. So off mic, Mitch and I were talking about this, and I had this whiskey the other day with a couple of other buddies, and we were talking about how it smelled like cornbread. And cornbread is on here.
Cornbread's on here?
Cornbread is on there.
All right, let me read this off real quick. Mexico's rich corn heritage is celebrated in this expression with a nose of sweet cooked corn, smooth toffee. Toffee is kind of, I think,
toffee is the sweetness, the caramel thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And honey undertones at the front with brown sugar and cornbread. Look at us learning. Coming through on the back palate, subtle spice of pepper, malt, and oak are also easily detected.
I do get the malt, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I do get the malt, and the sweetness that we're getting is a lot of the corn, I think. It's a very corny whiskey.
It is a very corny whiskey.
Not to be corny.
It's the dad jokes of whiskeys. I like this whiskey a lot. A lot of the flavors that they toss in here, they talked about, are the ones that we usually kind of pick up, and the ones we usually say that we like.
Yeah, it's definitely a sweeter one. It's definitely one that's less spicy, but it doesn't have that like sugariness. It's sweet without being super sugary, and I think it's because it's so corn.
Yeah, corn based.
It's very corn based. That it's almost like a sweet like cornbread. Honestly,
the cornbread is that's a hot call. I can't believe you got that.
Yeah, like
because you did say that off mic. There's like, we said it tasted like cornbread.
It does.
It does taste
taste like cornbread.
All right.
What are you going to rank this thing?
Yeah. Whew. So we do the 1 out of 10 thing. Ethan and I usually have kind of different grades of how we go about it. I've been more on the generous side since we've been doing this, and I'm going to continue to be generous. I'm going to give this a 9.1.
A 9.1.
9.1.
Wow.
And we're talking like
it's really good.
10 is like, I'm not having a better whiskey than this. And 0's like, I'm spitting it out and I'm never looking at it ever again. This is a 9.1. Very, very good.
I'm ranking it along the same lines. You were just thinking more of like a scholastic
I
grading
was.
scale.
Yeah, like
and
like
mine,
the 9 is the A and
yeah,
the 8 is the B.
and my thought was like, well, for me, a failing grade is like a 2 or a 1 versus, for you, a failing grade is like a 5.
Yeah.
So you would
To
very
be
rarely
beneath
go below 5.
Beneath 5 means like you shouldn't be making whiskey anymore.
For me, below like 3 would be,
Yeah.
That being said,
close up the doors.
I was going to give this one a 9.0.
9.0?
A 9.0. This is
the highest ranked thing we've had so far.
The best whiskey I think I've had on the podcast.
More than your Tennessee Honey?
I'm gonna say yes.
I'm
gonna say yes.
I feel like this is like the bougie, like brand version of your Tennessee Honey.
I'm gonna say yes.
Yeah.
I think it's better than my Tennessee Honey.
Well, it does have the hints of honey in it, so that makes sense.
Breaking news on Team Morale podcast.
Maybe your palate is coming to form.
Abasolo is the best whiskey to ever be made. Tennessee Honey, you are no longer my knight in shining armor. Mexican whiskey is where it's at.
Maybe we should have more Mexican. Maybe Mexican whiskey should be more of a thing.
It tastes like
They're
cornbread.
Doing a great
it
job.
Literally tastes like alcoholic cornbread. What more could you want?
They're doing a great job. Okay, I'm going to transition us to the back part of the podcast, and I'm going to start off with you, Ethan. Who is the next guy on your list of the scariest players in the association?
Well, hold on.
Get a refill.
I'm getting
Get a
more.
refill. I also like the bottle. It feels very like old cantina-y.
Yeah, for those on our YouTube, this is what the bottle looks like. It's very old cantina-y is right. The way the color of the glass is just a very cool looking color.
Yeah, like you'd see it like in an old Western kind of
absolutely.
glass.
All right, so moving on.
Abasolo, by the way, if we didn't mention the name of it there at the very end, but Abasolo is the name of the distillery. So take a look out for it, you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. My next guy is going to be a fan favorite because I know a lot of this podcast is Portland based.
Yeah.
And the next guy I have is a Portland Trailblazer, and that is one Damian Lillard.
Absolutely. He's scary as a motherfucker, that guy.
The iciest man in the NBA. This guy is unfazed by no matter the situation, no matter the score, no matter the time of the clock. This guy will rip your heart out, eat it for breakfast, and then crap it on your front porch is what he does. One play in particular against my Mavs, and Dame has had several crazy games against the Mavs. The one that stands out to me the most is when we were in the bubble. It was a very close game. The Blazers were playing for their lives, trying to get into the playoffs. The Mavs are playing to not play the Clippers.
The whole time.
That was the whole goal. Not play the Clippers.
And you failed at that goal.
And the Mavs are up 1, I believe, with like 30 seconds left. And Dame shoots this logo 3 that hits the back of the rim, goes straight up. And I'm talking like
to the moon,
20 feet in the air.
To the moon.
And comes straight down and goes right through the net in a perfect swish. And I remember crumpling to the ground and being like,
yeah, we were watching that game together, and even I couldn't even celebrate. I just felt awkward. I was like, "Yeah, that would suck if I were you." Like, I'm sorry, man.
I was like, even when he misses, he makes it. This man is dangerous. I mean, ask a Thunder fan, ask a Rocket fan.
Yeah, Laker fans. He kills the Lakers.
Yeah, I have been to games in person. This is before I was working in sports as a fan, and I went to a Mavs game, and he had I think it was 8 or 12 points, maybe. I don't even know if he was in double digits at halftime. He ended with a 60 burger and had 30 points in the third quarter and another 25 in the second quarter or in the fourth quarter. And you were just I don't even know what to do. He just picks the ball up, dribbles 3 times and shoots it. It doesn't matter from where. And it goes in every time. It's ridiculous. The man is an absolute fiend.
I'm glad that you said it. I didn't want to be too biased, and I didn't want to say Dame. I do, because obviously I haven't been on the other side of it. Fingers crossed, hopefully never. I've never been on the other side of the going against Dame, but I do think he's got to be one of the scariest guys. He just, at the most opportune times, turns into a man possessed. He gets possessed by the ghost of Michael Jordan, and just turns into an unworldly kind of player. And for a guy of his stature, for a guy that's been, felt like he's been overlooked his whole career, I think that basically that's why he's on the top 75 list, was because of his clutchness.
Yeah, I mean,
That's kind of the defining characteristic.
He will go
of him.
down as the greatest, like one of the greatest playoff performers in the history of the NBA, and then one of the greatest clutch vein players in the history of the. I mean, the game that he had against the Nuggets this past playoff run, where he had 50 points. It was probably the most fun I've ever watched. I mean, people say Steph is the most fun basketball player to watch, and they're not wrong. He is super fun. But Damian Lillard, when he is on, is nothing short of extraordinary.
It's because it feels like every single shot he takes shouldn't go in, but then every shot he takes somehow ends up going in. I'm with you. He has given me probably the greatest sports moments of my lives, between the rocket shot and the thunder shot to win the series. Those are probably two of, if not the top two greatest moments of sports in my fandom of sports.
There have only been a handful of times where a series have been won on a game winner, and he's done it twice.
Yeah.
Both crazy shots that, and I mean, I'll go on record, he probably shouldn't have taken. But he's Damian Lillard, and he doesn't give a fuck, so he does it anyways, and it goes in, so I can't fault him.
Well, it's funny, the first one against the Rockets, the play was not designed for him. The play was designed for LaMarcus, and then Dame saw Chandler Parsons sleeping, and then cut to the ball and was yelling at Batum to give him the ball at the end. And then we saw how that turned out. And then the one against the Thunder, every single person in their living room watching that was watching the time clock down, and he was just go to the hoop. Make a move.
Do something.
What are you doing? Why are you just standing there?
It was almost like if you've ever seen it in 2K, it's a glitch whenever you're playing the computer and they just stand there until the last second and the computer just hucks up a three from half court.
Yeah.
It's like a glitch in 2K, but he did it in real life.
He did it in real life, and he meant to do it. He was just honestly, better odds if I just shoot it from here.
And this might make some waves. Paul George called it a bad shot. I stand by it. It's a bad shot, but it's Damian Lillard, and his job is to make bad shots, and it worked.
His job is to make bad shots.
That's what his job is, and he does it better than anybody.
Him and Steph are probably the two guys where it's they take and make shots that nobody else takes and make. Even Durant doesn't take crazy shots like that. He just rises up above people and makes everything. Where Steph and Dame should not be doing what they do at their stature.
No, not at all. I mean, a small school guy coming out doing crazy things in the NBA, top 75 list, absolutely. Let's move on. Mitch, who do you have next?
All right, I kind of went in generations a little bit with mine. So it was I did Giannis, most scary guy currently, Steph, most scary guy in this last generation, and then I went to the history books. I went to the guy who probably strikes more fear in me than any other player that's ever played the game of basketball and probably ever will, and that's Kobe Bean Bryant.
Yeah, I mean, game on the line. That guy has a 30-minute highlight tape of just ripping people's hearts apart.
Just game winners or game sealers or whatever, and I'm sure half of it's against the Blazers and the Kings. Or in the Suns. Those are the three teams that Kobe just ruthlessly tormented throughout his entire career.
Yeah, I mean, you're not a basketball fan if you don't have a memory of Kobe ripping your heart out at least once.
Yeah,
it's can't be.
True.
Unless you're a Laker fan. If you're a Laker fan, then fine. Then also fuck you.
Yeah.
But also
he's the Black Mamba, right? He's every time when it came to, I remember several game winners. I remember one specific one. I was probably 10-ish at the Rose Garden, and Kobe hits a crazy fadeaway deep three above Derek Anderson on the buzzer to win the game. And it kind of just felt again, really Kobe again. He just he was one of the guys where when the clock was ticking down and a dude's taking the last shot, Kobe might be one of the few guys that scares me even more than everyone else we brought up so far.
Oh yeah, it's one of those things it's almost like Tom Brady in football where you're you scored too early.
Yep,
you gave him a chance. You scored too early. You're screwed.
You gave him 1 minute.
Not even. You gave him 3 seconds.
Yeah.
You scored too early. If there was
that.
a time for him to get the ball and shoot it, you scored too early because he was going to. I mean, I remember watching this, and I grew up in LA, so I grew up not loving the Lakers, but I grew up oh, I like the Lakers, whatever. And I remember he was playing against the Heat, and they were down, and he got the ball, and he cut to like his left hand, which in my mind I was like, that's weird. Like, how is he going to shoot it? And he did this weird, like from the top of the arc, fade away, running, floating three that he banked in
Oh, I remember. I know what
for
you're
the
talking
win.
about.
And I was like, what the nah.
Just forcing the ball in.
That was like there was like three guys on him. He had two teammates wide open, by the way, and he was like, "Nah, fam, I got this. Don't worry."
I love the memes where it's like the Kobe controller, which is like A is shoot, B is shoot, X is shoot, Y is shoot. There's like every button is just a shoot button. You can't pass to people if you have Kobe,
And that's fine.
that's who he is.
It worked.
He's not passing the ball to anyone else when it comes to the last shot. It's better for him to shoot over three people than it is for, I don't know, Sasha Vujacic to shoot an open three in the corner. It's just better.
I mean, and I'll throw another team in there for you, the Raptors. That Kobe just tormented.
Really?
He scored
Never
81,
thought
and there were also
yeah.
there was also like a game a long time ago that I'm not fully remembering, but they were down big with like a minute left, and he hit like 4 threes in the last minute or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
That just like
That's what he does.
ripped the Raptors' hearts out. I mean, and obviously the 81-point game against the Raptors. He was just on another level. I mean, the guy is just ice in his veins.
Kobe scared me. It's just like
True.
everyone else
I mean,
is
the
like
Grim Reaper.
Yes.
Talking about Halloween, he's Michael Myers.
Did you see the interview that he had? It was after his career. And it's funny. It's actually I didn't even think about this. So it was after his career, and he did this long interview on stage. And they asked Kobe, he's like, "So how would you get into like the mindset?" He's like, "I wanted to be a killer. I want to be a mindset of a killer. So I put the Halloween track theme song, like the Michael Myers theme song, on loop in my headphones as I was warming up because I was like, I'm coming out to murder you."
That's some serial killer
That's
shit,
some like,
man.
and he's like, "Man, y'all gonna think I'm a fucking psychopath after I say this, but here we go." You guys should go look at the that little clip because he actually said that, and like just the Halloween theme song just going off in his headphones while he's warming up, getting ready to murder people. That was Kobe. That was the man I was the most afraid of.
I mean,
ever.
and poor Suns fans.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
I know you ruined the Blazers, but
Blazers
there's not
and
a
Kings
team
got it
out.
bad, but the Suns got it the
Suns
worst.
got it the worst. I mean, Steve Nash, the only reason he doesn't have a finals appearance is because Kobe Bryant was just like, nah, I'm going to beat you, but also I'm going to beat you in ways that just like rip your heart apart.
Another one of those like, oh, you're going to have a chance. You're going to think you have a chance at least, and then I'm going to make sure that it just never happens for you.
I will never forget, and everyone who's a Lakers fan and everyone who's a basketball fan knows what shot I'm talking about, but it's the Kobe elbow game winner.
Yep.
And I remember watching
Game 7?
Yeah.
Game 6?
No, it wasn't. I think it was game 6.
Yeah. To seal it.
But I remember I was watching the game in my garage and I was a kid with my dad, and my dad hated Kobe. And so the Suns made the shot, right, to go up. And so they inbounded the ball and they gave the ball to Kobe. And my dad literally goes, "Oh, Kobe caught it," and walked out. Just walked out.
Didn't even watch the rest of the
Didn't
play.
even watch it. He hated Kobe that much. He was like, "Oh, he caught it." And now he was like, "Oh, it's like walked out of the garage, walked out, and just immediately was pissed off. Didn't know if he made it, miss. He just knew, and he came back, and I'm like looking at him like, is this a rerun? Like what?
Have we seen this before? It's like, we
he
have seen this before.
Yes, Kobe is an icon. I cannot wait for the 30 for 30 to come out on Kobe's life because that will be extraordinary.
I heard the Lakers did a similar thing that like the Last Dance where they documented like most of like Jordan's last year. I heard they did a similar thing with Kobe.
Yeah, and it's going to be incredible. Again, we've talked about this at length. Super sad, his whole life story, but the man on the court was an absolute black mamba.
He's the black mamba,
venomous.
Absolutely murder you. Okay, last guy.
I've got one more.
Who is our last?
And this is my first
villain.
like big homer pick in terms of this guy just tormented the Mavs individually. And that is Tim Duncan.
Lols. That's hilarious. Tim Duncan.
He like all the questions out there of like who's the best power forward of all time, and there's arguments between Dirk and Tim and Dirk and Kevin Garnett and Dirk and all these people and and Kevin Garnett and Tim and all these other Moses Malone, whatever. I can't argue the fact that Tim Duncan is the greatest because I think I love Dirk. I think Dirk is the second greatest, but Tim took Dirk to school.
He did.
And always did. And always will.
He did it with a smile on his face the whole time, too.
Oh, and it was one of those things where Dirk loved it. Dirk was just like, yeah, you're better than me. I don't know what you want.
Like, man, this guy really kicks ass for just like some random dude that barely is like, doesn't look that athletic.
That guy is probably the most slept on player in the history of basketball, in my opinion.
Probably. I mean, it's one of those, he's one of those guys where it's like, everyone universally has just agreed that he's the greatest power forward of all time and then just moves on with the conversation to other people.
I mean, he was so fundamental, he's boring, and so no one talks about him anymore. But I mean, he should be on the Mount Rushmore. I mean, think about this. If Ray Allen doesn't hit that crazy game-winning shot, Tim Duncan is 6 for 6.
Yep. Same as Jordan.
Same as Jordan.
Without a repeat, which is arguably harder to do.
I believe he repeated once.
I don't know if he did.
I'll look this up.
I don't know if he did. I thought that there was. I'm going to do the Michael Scott thing where you just start talking and you find the sentence along the way. But it's funny that you bring up Tim Duncan. Tim Duncan was one of my favorite players growing up. I've talked about him a lot on this podcast. But yeah, he would kill you, and he'd kill you with a smile. He's almost like the Joker in that way.
He did not repeat. He won in 99, 2003, 2005, 2007, and then 2014.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a career, right? And I think he gets a little bit of hate because like he had the same coach and he had the same organization and he had like the same role players, and it's like he never experienced true like turmoil, I guess would be a good way of saying it. Like he never like experienced a lot of drama in his career, but that's not who he was. He wasn't a drama guy. He was
also like a lot of, star players now create drama.
They want the drama.
And in 20 years in the same place, like to not have any drama come out, that's incredible.
Kyrie would shrivel up and die if he didn't have any drama in his life.
I'm just trying to think of players that have done that. I mean, Kobe stayed with the Lakers for so long, but there was a couple years there that was dramatic. Dirk, there were a couple years where it was like maybe not on Dirk's part, but the organization was like, "Hey, we suck. Do you want to leave?" type of thing. And Tim Duncan, it was steady Eddie the whole time.
Yep,
smooth sailing.
It's almost like that's a good way to live by because it brought a lot of success to him, and he is one of the greatest of all time. His career stats show it, his peak stats show it, his accolades show it. And I can see why it's funny that you say that because you don't think of him as like a murderer, but he was a killer. He's an absolute killer. He arguably ruined Dirk's career.
Oh yeah,
by being around,
especially in the playoffs. I mean, the amount of times that the Mavs met the Spurs in the playoffs, and it was like one of those things where like we're on the same side of the bracket. And it's like, fuck, no, why?
The Mavs Spurs hate is real.
Oh, they don't like each other. Well, and it was just because like he was the great Dirk neutralizer because back when the Mavs were good, and not saying they're not good now, but like. Back when it was like Dirk's team and Dirk was good.
Number one seeds, MVPs.
The number one seeds, Dirk was an MVP. Like when he played against Tim Duncan just shut him down. He knew his moves. He knew exactly what to do. And Dirk wasn't the defensive player that Duncan was. Yep. And so like as much as Dirk tried to take him outside the paint and take advantage, he was just so athletic, but yet so fundamental that nothing fazed him.
Yeah. No, totally true. He is like the arch nemesis. It's funny, we had a trend where you picked Dirk's arch nemesis in Tim Duncan, and I picked Dame's arch nemesis in Steph Curry. Even though Dame's arch nemesis is more of a Russell Westbrook thing, but I'm not afraid of Russell Westbrook. I'm more irritated by Russell Westbrook.
So I looked this up. Tim Duncan, Steph's plus minus was plus 203 in his career. Tim Duncan is plus 306
against the Mavs. It's just
in his career in the 64 games against the Mavs, they outscored
them by 200
points, 300 points.
It's just the guys that you can't get around, the guys that irritate you, the ones that play the exact same position as your favorite player and just continue to get the better of you. Those are the scariest guys in the world.
And the worst part about Tim Duncan and this is going off our Halloween, fright list or whatever. I couldn't hate him. I couldn't. I was terrified of him. Don't get me wrong, but I was like, how do I hate a guy who just smiles and kicks my ass?
Almost in a Thanos kind of way, where it's like, I get it. I get what you're trying to do here. Like, you're the bad guy. I don't like you, but I get what you're doing.
You bank shot me to death.
You and your goddamn fundamentals, just
Like,
doing the right thing every time, you motherfucker.
Which is so like not Dirk. Dirk was so not fundamental, and so it was like the yin and the yang.
It's true.
Of like two guys whose games was polar opposites, but it wasn't the yin and the yang. It was just the yang, where the yang was Tim Duncan and just shat on us all the time.
No, that is a very good one. This was a fun one.
Yeah.
This was a fun one. I think this is good for spook season.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy Halloween, everybody.
Happy
Go
Halloween.
trick-or-treating. Go get yourself some candy.
Yeah, everybody go knock on your neighbor's door and go beg for some candy, because that's what Halloween is all about.
Yeah,
I will be doing it.
I will also be doing it.
I don't know if my neighbors are going to love it, but I'm going to expect candy.
A 27-year-old dude in a
I don't know what
Cinderella costume or something.
Cinderella, yeah, that's what I'll be wearing. I'll be wearing a dress. Well, Ethan, this was another good one. Happy Halloween, everybody. Cheers to Abasolo El Whiskey de Mexico. And if you want that in English, it's Abasolo Ancestral Corn Mexican Whiskey. You guys, I very much recommend this.
The
This
highest rated whiskey that we've had on the podcast so far. And I'm
Kind of by
saying
a
it's
lot.
my favorite whiskey going forward.
kind of by a lot. And
Yeah.
this might be one of Ethan's favorite whiskeys going forward ever. So,
But real quick, but before we sign off, comment on us what you guys are being for Halloween. Because
Oh,
I want to
yeah.
know.
We
I want to
wanna
know. And maybe someone who gives us the best the idea, will send them a shirt or something. So if
give
you
me
get,
an idea for Halloween
Yeah,
too.
give
While you're
us
at
some
it. I don't
ideas.
want to be. I don't want
for
to be
whoever gives
Cinderella.
us the best Halloween costume, if you made it this far in the podcast, I don't know a lot of you do make it this far, so you have a very good chance of getting a free shirt. So yeah, give us your Halloween costumes. We'll pick the best one and we'll send you guys a shirt.
Awesome! Happy Halloween, everyone!
Happy Halloween! Cheers.
Cheers.